We've got a chart for our viewers. This is trying to put political risk within the context of the dollar, within the context of treasuries. It's BTV 8236. Now, you can go all the way back to 1900 for political risk, and we'll discuss that later on. But the basis of this story is the dollar could be the biggest loser in political risk. Yet I look at the dollar, and the dollar is up for the 5th week in a row. When you look at political risk, how does it manifest itself for you in trading?
Well, I think it's a very good question, because the sort of political and trade risk that's sort of started to appear from the new year has also come about by a very sharp tightening in dollar rates. You've seen the 2-year sell off very dramatically. Over the last week, we've had interbank spreads in the dollar also widen sharply. And actually, equities and risk assets have been generally unfazed. I think the reason for that is partially because the dollar has been relatively subdued. So unfortunately, if the dollar starts to strengthen any further from here, I think that risk assets probably find life a little bit tougher. So the irony is that the trade war, to some extent, has been also mixed in with a very, very big sea change in rates, and also, as I said, with the interbank spreads rising as well. Some of them to the levels we've seen in 2012 during the European sovereign crisis.
Sean, the big story that's shaking up tech stocks is around Apple developing its own screens to replace Samsung screens. How do you factor that into your outlook for the rest of the day and for the rest of the few months that are coming up?
Well, for us at the moment, one of the really big drivers for tech is actually the CapEx cycles. And one of the things that we've been highlighting is that whilst we've got synchronized growth, they've also, for the first time in nearly a decade, have got synchronized capital investment spending. So for the tech sector, and Apple included, I think we're in a really good sweet spot, and which is why they've sort of rallied so strongly after February, in that the corporate sector is also beginning to spend, not just in the US, but globally. So my sense at the moment is if the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index continues to break out from here, it's going to lead all of these shares, including Apple and other IT leaders. And I think it's actually a very healthy response to the fact that the global economy, in particular the corporate sector, is enjoying such a strong period for spending. And as I say, that really ought to be the good news for 2018, and particularly for tech stocks in general.